Mom told me to leave, so I did. Law enforcement got involved and she lost everything. This happened when I was 15. My mom was, let's be real, she probably still is, a mentally, emotionally, and physically abusive narcissist. Some highlights are when she was teaching my twin sister and I to read at the age of 4 or so. It was around 2 a.m. and my sister was having trouble learning, so my mother's solution was to beat her with a sandal every time she got a flashcard wrong. Same thing happened when my mother had me transcribe an essay she had written to my handwriting when I was 7. Every time I started a letter from the wrong position, like starting a capital M from the bottom line, she would beat me with one of her BIRKENSTOCKS. This too happened later at night, so when I got too delirious for the exhaustion and pain, she would drag me by the neck and literally throw me into a cold shower to wake me up so we could more easily continue the waking nightmare. When I was 13, I told her to wanted to live with my dad. They were divorced, and she told me she didn't care what I did after I turned 18. I later figured out that this was because the child support stopped at age 18. Anywho, fast forward to age 15. Our relationship was understandably strained. We had had guests, and she liked to use guests as a way of controlling our behavior through shame. It's easier to be an angsty teenager when your grown-up friends from church aren't watching and judging everything you do. This made it easier for her to pretend to be a firm but loving mother, all while slipping in sideways comments like velvet daggers. Well, I decided I wasn't going to subject myself to the whole thing and spent the day outside in the woods nearby. We lived in the mountains at the time, so it was less than 100 hours from the house. When I saw our guests had left, I went to go back inside. My mother, perhaps unhappy at being denied a day-long emotional abuse routine, told me I wasn't welcome and that I should leave. My 15-year-old brain heard her words and knew that she only meant for a little while, but it also recognized that failed to specify any time frame at all. So I hiked a couple miles to a friend's house and asked if I could spend a couple days there. When my friend's dad found out that I was there and why he was pissed and said I could stay as long as I needed, I didn't go home that evening or the next. My mom became concerned and contacted law enforcement, LE, to report me missing. This is a big deal for several reasons. We lived in the mountains on a national park, so it was a very real possibility that I had been attacked by a wild animal, become injured while hiking, drowned, or been kidnapped. Nobody knew of my mother's abusive tendencies or the squalor and neglect my sister and I lived in. Most importantly, the law enforcement was the local park rangers with which she worked daily. Ellie immediately contacted my dad's side of the family to see if I had turned up there or contacted them. They promptly freaked the fuck out and came to my house with lawyers on standby. LE then hired dogs to track my scent, and then everyone freaked out because the dogs tracked me to a nearby river where my trail died because the dogs couldn't pick up any more scent. Over the next couple days, there were people going in and out of my house, rangers, lawyers, my family, etc., and several noticed the overpowering scent of cleaning chemicals, but only the lawyer considered why a clean house would reek of chemicals. Ellie started to canvass the nearby woods and neighborhood. My friend's dad came to me and asked if there was somewhere else I could stay. He told me that he wouldn't kick me out, didn't want to have to lie to the police or let the dogs on his property. My friend and I figured we'd just go camping for a week or so, but instead I looked up my dad's side of the family and called, and they picked me up right away. Understandably, everyone had questions. When I told them what was happening, the lawyers, horrified, pounced. A judge issued an emergency change of custody and prevented her from gaining custody until she underwent a psych eval and therapy, which my mother would never allow. The rangers, equally horrified, completely shunned my mother, and she eventually lost her job. Since she was only allowed to live on the park because she worked there, so she was kicked out of her house. My friend's father and the trackers were members of the local community and churches, and they too shunned my mother. She lost her job, her house, her church, and her friends, all because she told me to leave, and I did. Story 2, pound of wings, okay, you got it. I worked as a cook at a chain restaurant that had a wing night where you could get a pound of wings at a discounted price. We didn't actually weigh the wings, our specs said 8 wings to a pound, 4 drums and 4 flats. One night, A table comes in and everyone orders a pound of wings. A little while after the wings go out, the server comes back a little flustered and explains there has been a complaint. Apparently, one of the guys at the table complained that it was obvious that he didn't get a pound because it would be a huge coincidence if everyone's pounds led to the same number of wings on each plate. He insisted that the server go and weigh these already discounted wings to make sure he was getting what he paid for, so we weighted it. Sure enough, it was not a pound. It was 1.5 pounds. We tell the server to bring it out and tell him he's getting more than a pound. She says, fuck no, he paid for 1 pound. He's going to get what he paid for, and threw 2 of his wings in the garbage and re-weighted the food. Still over. Throws another one out, bang on 1 pound of wings. So she brings back out his 5 wings and calmly tells the gentleman, "Here are your wings, sir. You were right, there was more than 1 pound there. So we threw the other ones out. Good catch." When they ordered a second round, he didn't complain that everyone got 8 wings to 1 pound. Story 3. I can't get a refund on my escape room? Okay, let me reschedule then. This might be a rarity for this sub, as I am the one who had the malicious compliance done to by someone else, but I had to respect it and thought it was worthy for this subreddit. Context. I own an escape room company in a town which borders a pretty touristy area and is very close to an airport. As such, we tend to get a lot of bookings from people all over the UK who are visiting the area for the weekend, or international people coming to do an escape room on the way to the airport. We only take online bookings and don't take walk-ins. Therefore, the site is only really manned whenever we have bookings. As such, our cancellation policy is that we only allow refunds if the cancellation is more than 24 hours before the scheduled start time. If it is 24 hours before the start time, we can only reschedule the booking. Now, it's worth mentioning that for the majority of cases, weekdays, we are pretty relaxed with our policy as long as it doesn't cause any big issues and try our best to accommodate a group, as usually I am the one hosting them, so there's not any additional expenses on our part, that is staff wages / loss of income from other potential customers. However, the only day where this policy is really relevant is on Saturday, where we are almost always entirely booked from morning to night and have staff members working for us. So any canceled slots would most likely have been filled by other customers, and we are, of course, still paying our staff for that time. Although I must say we have only ever had to enforce this policy a couple of times, as we are usually accommodate a group in some shape or form. Now, onto the MC. So I get a call earlier today from a gentleman with a thick Scottish accent that was scheduled to come in with his group in around 2.5 hours from the time of the call. The group said that they would be unable to make their booking as they were running late with some other activities or something like that, and asked to reschedule the booking for a later slot. I checked our schedule, but didn't have any slots left for today in any of our rooms. He then asked for a refund as they would be returning back to Glasgow tonight and didn't know when they would be next down here. I told him our policy and that our system only allows reschedules instead of refunds due to the time frame, and explained that given it's a Saturday we can't refund so close to the time as staff has been arranged, slot would have been booked, etc., etc. Rescheduling wouldn't have worked for them as they wouldn't be in the area anytime soon. After a short pause, he asked if we had any free slots to schedule for next month. I checked the system and offered to move the booking to the same time on the 16th of November, to which he said, "Yeah, I think that works." I changed the time on the system and informed him he would get an email confirming the new time slot. He replied, "Great, so the booking is more than 24 hours away now, right?" Me, "Yes, it's booked in for 4 weeks' time from today." Him, "Right, so the booking is more than 24 hours away. I won't be able to make it. Can I have a refund?" I paused for a second, trying to process what had just happened in my head, and realized that he had found a loophole in the system. Technically, his booking was more than 24 hours away, so he is technically entitled to a refund. I started laughing and congratulated him on beating the system as I processed his refund.